Supreme Court, and we are going to discuss all the aspects of a Supreme Court, from its historical context to the role of Supreme Court in the modern jurisdiction system. If we look at the historical context of the Supreme Court, we can see that the Supreme Court of Canada came into existence more than a century after the first court appeared in Canada. Its role has evolved considerably since its creation in 1875, and today it stands as the final court of appeal in Canadian judicial system. And in the present time, the Supreme Court of Canada holds the greatest authority in any criminal matter of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada hears appeals from the decisions of the highest courts of final resort of the province and territories, as well as from federal courts of appeal and the Court Martial Appeal Court of Canada. Its jurisdiction is derived mainly from the Supreme Court Act, as well as from a few other acts of parliaments such as the Criminal Code. By looking at the next context, we can see that the Supreme Court of Canada is the only bilingual and bijural Supreme Court in the world, which works and decide cases in French and English in all areas of law such as family, criminal, and tax law. The Supreme Court of Canada works to make independent and impartial decisions about the issues that matters to Canadians. Apart from this, Supreme Court is a general court of appeal from all other Canadian courts of law. It therefore has jurisdiction over disputes in all areas of the law, including constitutional law, administrative law, criminal law, and private law. In light of the broad scope of the Supreme Court of Canada's jurisdiction, it is clear that the Canadian judicial system differs from uh, that of many continental European, Latin, and South American countries, where it is not usual for there to be separate courts of last resort for both constitutional law and administrative law cases, in addition to a general court of appeal. If we are to talk about the judges of the Supreme Court, we can see that the Supreme Court of Canada consists of 9 judges, including a justice to be called the Chief Justice of Canada. All judges are appointed by the Governor in Council and must have been either a judge of a superior court or a member of at least 10 years standing of the bar of a province or territory. The Chief Justice is sworn as a member of a Privy Council of Canada before taking the oath of office as Chief Justice. Moreover, Supreme Court of Canada stands at the top of the pyramid of the Canadian jurisdiction system. The broad base of the pyramid is formed by the provincial and territorial courts, whose judges are appointed by the provincial and territorial governments. Now, my friend Vishwajit is going to describe the organization of the Supreme Court. Thank you.
My name is Vishwajit Singh and I am going to speak on the topic organization of court. The court in Canada are organized in four tied structure. The Supreme Court of Canada sits at the apex of structure and consists with its role as a general court of appeal for Canada and appeals from both the federal court system headed by the Federal Court of Appeal and the provincial court system headed in each province by the Province Court of Appeal. In other words, its counterpart in the United States. Therefore, the Supreme Court of Canada function as a national and not a merely federal court at the last resort. The next tie down from the Supreme Court of Canada consists of Federal Court of Appeal and the various provincial Court of Appeal. Two of these later courts, it should be noted, also function as the Court of Appeal for the three federal territories in northern Canada: the Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territories, and Nova Territory. The next tier down consists of Federal Court, the Tax Court of Canada, and the provincial and territorial superior courts of general jurisdiction. These latter courts can fairly be described as a linchpin of Canadian judicial system, since reflecting the role of their English counterparts. on which they were moduled. They are the only courts in system with the inherent jurisdiction in addition to jurisdiction granted by federal and provincial statutes. At the bottom of hierarchy are the court, typically described as provincial courts. These courts are generally divided within each province into various divisions defined by subject matter of their respective jurisdiction. Hence, one usually find a traffic diversion division, a small claim division, a family division, a criminal division, and so on. This is this is the topic about the organization of court, and I have defined the three function of Supreme Court. And now my friend Harsh is going to speak on the topic role of Supreme Court in jurisdiction. Function of Supreme Court in jurisdiction.
Hello everybody, this is Harshdeep from this side. I'm going to be talking about the role of Supreme Court of Canada. So there are four major roles of Supreme Court of Canada: appeals, sessions, jurisdiction, and accessibility. So first I will start with the appeals. So there is an appeal process in Court of Canada. So that start with the leave to appeal. So whenever an applicant try to apply for appeal, they must have to apply for leave to appeal in Supreme Court. So this actually is an application by an applicant which will be sent to the three judges of the Supreme Court. If this leave to appeal raise any questions of a public importance, then the leave to appeal will be granted by the judges. Otherwise, it would be not. So the next process is hearing. So in hearing, each side is given 1 hour to make their summation, where there are multiple claimants and defendants. They are required to split the time among them. However, in exceptional circumstances, the parties may apply to the court to extend their time. Interveners are typically granted 10 minutes to make their argument. So the next step is reasoning. So the most common practice is that once the hearing is complete, the judges will go to the conference room. They will sit in the round table and they will discuss the decision. So at the end, the judges make a tentative decision of the case, and in most cases a decision will be arrived by the end of the day. So the next role is the sessions. So the Supreme Court holds 3 sessions a year and hears on average 65 to 80 appeals a year. Each session lasts 3 months. The first takes place in winter, the second in spring, the third in fall. The court generally sits Monday to Friday starting 9:30 a.m. and its hearings are open to the public. In some cases, the court will render its decision orally at the conclusion of the hearing, but most of the time it reserves judgment to enables the judges to write the detailed decision. So the next part is the jurisdiction of the court. Supreme Court of Canada is general court of appeal from decisions of all other Canadian courts of law. It therefore has jurisdiction over disputes in all areas of law, including constitutional law, administrative law, and criminal law, and last but not least, private law. Most appeals are heard by the court only if the leave is first given. Leave to appeal is granted by the court if, for example, the case involves a question of public importance or an important issue of law that warrants consideration by the court. So the last part is accessibility. So there are 750 courts located in Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada sits only in Ottawa, although teleconferencing facilities to locations across the Canada are available. Hence, it is possible for the parties to litigation before the court to make their argument in location other than Ottawa and to have those arguments transmitted to the Supreme Court of Canada via satellites. The 3 other federally established courts are the Federal Court of Appeal, the Federal Court, and the Tax Court of Canada. Altogether have 17 permanent locations. The provincial and territorial courts sits over 700 locations. These include 15 permanent provincial and territorial appellate court sitting location, 1 in each province and territory except Quebec and Alberta, because they have 2 each. So that's all about the role of Supreme Court. I hope you guys enjoyed our video. Thank you so much for watching us. Stay safe. Thank you.